Hello everyone, Zelrant here, and today we're going to talk a little bit about some of the latest stuff added within the CN version relating to the Endgame. So that's going to be the new PvA as well as the new EX mode that have come out on the CN side. There's some discussion on it, and Sia has pinned me on some posts here on Discord, so I thought we'd take a look at it and kind of talk about it. One of the reasons I want to talk about it as well as because what I see a lot in my comments when I talk about the new characters coming out on the CN version or who we're getting on global is how much does it matter in terms of the meta, because the game is so easy and you don't really need to, which is a good thing to a certain extent. You don't need to get the meta, but does synergy still matter? Because you can throw any random team together and complete pretty much all of the content. The hardest mode that we have is right now expansion drills / Gunsmoke Frontline, depending on how you want to view it. Expansion drills being the hardest. Once you beat the last one, you have to add in those debuffs / buffs to the boss that make it where it's a little bit harder to complete if you want to maximize the rewards. But it's still not too hard, but you still have to think about it a little bit, which is nice. But a lot of people consider it not that much. And then we need a little bit more because that's resetting only every 2 weeks. And then Gunsmoke Frontline is not ultimately difficult in the sense that you can easily do it. Now, if you're trying to get to the top of the leaderboards, first you got to be a whale, first of all, to get to the top of the leaderboards. But if you're really wanting to maximize your damage in that, it takes a little bit of thought. But when it comes to maximizing rewards, most active platoons like mine and a lot of others have someone that you can borrow, like a V6 Klukai on. And while it's not going to get you the most points, a V6 Klukai by itself, alongside like your best teams, your 3 best teams, is going to get you enough points to easily carry your platoon, if everyone's doing that, into the top 5%, so you can get all rewards from Gunsmoke Frontline, which is ultimately all that matters for a majority of people. So we don't really have too much in terms of difficulty. Well, that one thing is they are adding more now into CN, and we can fully expect to get this in global, hopefully sooner than CN got it, so maybe within a couple months they could add some of this. The first one's going to be this new PvA mode they've added, you can see here. One of the questions I had mentioned in a stream before was regarding the reset. I didn't know what the reset was going to be, because if it coincided with the current endgame we have, then it would suck, because now if they reset together, you're having to do them together, and that could be adding more time required to complete all of it. But it's alternating amongst expansion drills, so they're on alternating weeks. So they each last 2 weeks, but they're on alternating. So expansion drills, when it resets, you're going to still have 7 days left of the current PvA. When PvA resets, you're going to have 7 days left of the current expansion drill. So they basically have now become a weekly content. So you just alternate between each one of them if you complete them as they come out, or if you're someone that does them last second, you alternate between them as you do them last second. So that's really good. And with this new PvA mode, it's kind of like expansion drills, except if you remember the PvA modes when the game came out had like unique conditions to it. You still have that here, but now you have the same thing as expansion drills, where you can add some buffs to the boss and debuffs to your own team to increase the difficulty. I'm going to guess it's up to 40 points, but you need 18 to get the max. So that's pretty good. And when I kind of seen some of these, I did see one of the debuffs. If you're one of those people that loves to showcase that they can beat it at 40 points, you're not going to be able to carry yourself with a V6 Klukai in this, because one of them is an 80% reduction to AoE damage. So you're not going to be able to get 40 points, at least not easily, with just a V6 Klukai carrying you on this. Or just AoE in general. I mean, that's just a corrosion sucks one. So it is nice there. Now, it is only still requiring the 18, so you can just ignore that one, and Klukai is probably going to still be really good. But it is going to change every 2 weeks, as we've seen with expansion drills, new bosses and stuff. So I could see it having progressively different difficulties for different teams, which is very good for an end game. And what I really like about that is, because the one thing people don't want when it comes to more difficulty is just outright power creep. They don't want to just see, like we see with HSR, just massive HP inflation, and then you have to get the latest and greatest units to beat it. That sucks. And so I do like that they're trying to keep older units relevant, but then kind of nerfing certain ones depending on the content, which is good. And that's when we get into the new EX mode. So let me go over that one real quick here. All right, I got the post up here from Sia here that he had pinned me on for the new EX mode. We can kind of take a look at this and kind of see how it's going to influence not only wanting to make like unique teams versus what we're already currently doing, but also how it's actually going to be truly difficult. I think the first real actual hard difficult content in the game, even if you build the correct teams. Let's just kind of look at the debuffs that your team will get and the buffs the enemies will get. So the first one we have for the allies, at the end of action, take fixed damage equal to 15% of max HP. If there are no allies within 2 tiles, take an additional damage equal to 20% max HP. Now that one's pretty crazy in terms of you're going to be taking a lot of damage. You're absolutely going to need a sustain because of that. Now the one thing I can see this is, this almost feels like this is specifically in here for Florence, because she has her stimulant buff that increases your damage based on health taken. So this could be very good, but also very dangerous, especially if you're not close to your team, because that's 35% of your damage. And then her buff also, I believe it's 20%. So if you put those together, that's 55% damage taken. But then you have the second part here, though, which makes it even more crazy. At the start of turn, gains chain break. So this is a debuff that every single turn all your team members are going to get. Chain break. Attack is reduced by 80%. The effect will be nullified after dealing targeted damage once with active skills. Considered a debuff, cannot be cleansed. This one is kind of crazy, because this pretty much makes a good chunk of the units in the game absolutely terrible. This one is also a Klukai sucks debuff. Because, and there's even more. There's even more that makes Klukai absolutely terrible at this. But if you're going to use your Klukai, her damage is reduced by 80% right off the bat. You're not going to be able to get rid of this because she doesn't do targeted damage, she does AoE damage. But this limits you to very few characters. Some of the big ones you can kind of note are going to be like QJ, Tololo, Nikita, and another one that I've seen because people are talking about it down here in the comments is Allred. Allred actually may be good in this content. I'll have to see. I haven't seen anyone make videos on this. I'm guessing Sia will make something at some point. He's been focused on the Florence videos in the last couple days, which I'll take a look at those here in the future as well, so you can kind of see how Florence is doing within the current content, especially the Gunsmoke. But that very limits you down to your teams. And one thing I really like about this is it's going to make you think of making a unique team, like that isn't like a current meta team that you would think of. Because, like right now, the main team I'm thinking of with this one is going to be a Burn Hydro combo team. Where maybe you bring Vector, QJ, Tololo, Springfield. And then, I don't know if this has 4 or 5 units, but if you bring a 5th unit, maybe Nikita or a Sharkry. So, some combo of that, because you're needing them to go multiple times in a single turn. Because that first attack is going to do 80% less damage. And then after that first attack, then they can start doing some real damage. But you have the problem here of, so after they take an action, they take fixed damage. And you absolutely, like with a QJ, you cannot have them away from your teammates. Because you're going to be taking a massive amount of damage, because you're going to have to go multiple times in a turn. And each time, because it's at the end of action, so it sounds like every time they do an action, they're taking 15% health. And if they're not near teammates, they're going to take an additional 20. They're going to die really quickly if you don't keep them close together. So it's like probably a must that you keep them close. Like, yeah, Tololo's going to get wrecked real quick if you don't have healing there. So Springfield is going to be massive on this team. Potentially even a Suomi may be very good for this team, paired with a Springfield. I mean, because, yeah, that's a lot of damage they're going to take. And then you have, just to top it off, on the enemy's buffs. For every dead ally, so every enemy that gets killed, restores 20% max HP. This, to me, is the nail in the coffin on Klukai. If you wanted to just try and bring Klukai and say, you know what, who cares? She only does 20% of her damage. She can still do big AoE damage. Like, she can hit all the enemies. And even though it'll take a little bit longer, she can kill them all at the same time. You're good to go. No. This buff right here completely prevents that, because as soon as one of them dies, all of them are getting healed by 20% max HP. And with Klukai only doing 20% of her own personal damage, she's not going to be able to overcome those heals. So she's pretty much dead in the water with that one right there. And then now every time one dies, they get a stack of Razor Edge, which then they increase their stability damage by 1 point, attack increased by 20%, maximum 10 stacks. Considered a buff cannot be cleansed. It increases attack, defense, max HP, and stability by 100%. So now the enemies are super buffed. So this is actually looking like it's going to be truly difficult, and you're actually going to have to build teams around it that work. Now, while it is restrictive here, I won't say it's too restrictive. It is definitely very restrictive, but like your supports and stuff, it's not going to matter too much because they're not going to be the ones doing damage. Like, they're just going to be completely neutered to a certain extent. Now, having someone like a V6 Springfield now is going to be insane on this one. But the main focus is going to be like your main damage dealers, like a Tololo and a QJ, who are going to actually be able to kill enemies. And without being able to do... I mean, it's kind of crazy because without being able to bring in a Klukai to just kill them all real quick, this buff is going to become a problem because you're killing them single target at a time. You're not doing an AoE. So this increasingly stronger buff that they're getting is actually going to be a problem probably towards like the last couple you have to kill, because it stacks 10 times. So it's pretty insane. I do like that Allred will actually work in this. We'll have to see. Hopefully Sia will have some videos out on it though. Like I said, he's been focused on the Floance videos the last couple days that I've seen. So I haven't actually seen anyone else or anyone make content on this yet. I might check through Billy today, see maybe if people on CN have actually made some, but I have not actually seen people actually doing this content. But it definitely is challenging content coming out. So I do really like that. We'll kind of have to see overall what direction they go with future. I do feel like it is partially, I don't know though, this is very strong in terms of the damage it does to your team. But that almost, like to a certain extent, helps Floance's buff. So I almost feel like that could be in there for her to a certain extent, but who knows? I mean, it just might be to make it extremely hard. Because your sustain is going to be important. For once, sustain is actually going to be like really important. I think I've seen comments saying where you might want to pair two. Like you bring your Springfield and a Suomi just so you can survive it, especially as they get increasingly stronger and are doing more stability damage. But we'll kind of have to see. Overall, I really like it, but that's pretty much it. Hopefully Global gets this sooner rather than later, because that way it can add some more difficulty for everybody that's been asking for it. But that's pretty much it. If you like my content, if you can like, comment, subscribe, it really helps, and thanks for watching.